Marley, you caress my life. Like the warm air passing by me, like freedom in your eyes. Like a river running through me, my love for you is strong. Like the endless days of summer, like nothing can go wrong. When I see you, things get better. Your white smile is my love letter. Best of me is when we're together now.
Right, Steve, well, welcome to the first
ever
podcast.
Cornermen podcast.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, I'm sure we're going to mention the band.
We'll come to that later.
Oh, darling. Well, I thought we'd talk about, we've spoke at lots of different places and on the radio about how the Cornermen came about, really.
Yeah.
How kind of two idiots from South Oxfordshire got together and formed the Cornermen.
Yeah. So,
But I think we need to address something before we start, John.
yeah.
Because a lot of people haven't seen the hair down. This is a debut, and it just looks beautiful as the sun. All I can see is the golden sun coming through on your golden locks.
Yes, it's kind of showing. This always happens when I have the hair down.
It comes, the sun comes out.
Yeah. Just sort of. Sometimes I do that. I'm permanently intimidated.
Yeah, that's it. It's beautiful.
Yes, no, the hair. Yeah, so the hair is not normally down; it's normally up.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's Sunday.
Yeah.
So Sunday hair day.
The day of rest.
Yes, I'm not normally allowed out of the house with it down.
But now you're just going to go on social media with it.
I think I said I'm going to do a podcast.
You own it,
and
John.
So
people
said,
assume
I was funny enough. I was thinking about what top to wear. And so this top or that top. She went, "You're on the radio. Nobody's going to see you."
Yeah.
So obviously she doesn't think it's going to go out to the general public.
And Marky McFly, who's here, is helping us do his podcast. When he first arrived this morning, I was like, I'll probably just do audio.
Yeah.
I said, but I will see what John wants to do. And as soon as you turned up, it was like, no, we'll do it with the whole shebang. And I'm glad you said it, actually.
And it is Marky McFly, isn't it?
It's Marky McFly.
Not the one from Back to the Future, the other one.
No, that's it. It's Marky.
Podcast.
Yeah. We're very grateful to Marky for coming and doing this.
Yeah. And he's doing that all voluntarily, which is really appreciated.
Yeah.
So, the Cornermen. This is our first podcast. So we're going to talk about the Cornermen. We're going to talk about how it came about.
Makes sense.
And I think people have to understand that there's maybe the origin story of the Cornermen is kind of lost in the midst of time a bit. And there's some sort of debate and ongoing legal stuff about how it actually came about.
So it depends who you ask.
Yes,
for the idea,
yes.
And then ultimately further down the line when there's a legal wrangling for the band.
So it's like in my version of events.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's just start and then I'll chip in. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I've been running the South Morton Boxing Club for 18 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been a kind of labour of love. Really enjoyed it, and we've built up a really nice community. There's some lovely people here, we're out on this lovely farm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so we built it up, over the years. And I think particularly.
How long has it been going, John?
It's been going 18 years. So
right.
It was 2006.
Yeah.
So early 2006.
And it was just this room we're in.
It was just this room.
Yeah.
And I started off just doing because it was only this room, which is 500 square feet.
Yeah.
So basically, it was 500 square feet.
Yeah.
We've now got I think 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So we got this room, and then I only did one-to-one training and group sessions. Then took the next room, that was another 500 square feet, and then started opening up as a little bit of a gym during the day. Then the next room, which was another 700 square feet. So so we went from like that, and then we took another building over the road, and then we built another 2 buildings, to house different bits and pieces. So now we have, which is quite a setup now. Yeah. So it's grown, the community's grown. We've always actually tried to do things, involved with charity. I mean, the first boxing show we did, it was all to raise money for charity. I think we've raised well over £100,000.
Wow, really, that much?
Over the years, to various different charities, and so it's always been that kind of community-minded.
Done a lot for charity.
Done a lot for charity. Don't like to talk about it. That's why I've got marketing. So there's always been that kind of a bit of that ethos behind it, I suppose, behind the organisation, and obviously you joined 7-8 years ago.
As you can tell.
Yeah. I should have seen it before.
Yeah, that's it.
And and then we always got on well, and similar interests, similar ideas, and lots of chat about. We chat about current affairs, and psychology and stuff like that.
Yeah. We better not do that on this podcast. We don't want to get cancelled.
No, exactly. No, not on the first one. That'd be a disaster. Halfway through the first one, it all fell apart. So yeah, so there was that, and then we talked, and then I think after lockdown, when we came back from lockdown, a lot of people started talking to me, maybe a little bit more openly, but about depression, PTSD, anxiety. It just seemed to be more prevalent.
Maybe
after
that's
lockdown.
maybe that's one of the benefits. There's lots of downsides, but maybe one of the benefits. We talk about it another time.
maybe
But one of the benefits
talk,
was just sort of thinking. But yeah, sorry, carry on, mate.
Yeah, so there was more of that, and then also people came to me and they said, look, coming to you really got me through, and there were major life crises they were talking about. They were saying, oh, I got divorced, my business failed, this, that, and then coming here and kind of talking to you got me through it, and this came as a bit of a surprise to me. I must admit, I'm not the most maybe intuitive person. Other people's,
especially if you're training.
Other people's
like if you're training, there's no getting through. The building could be on fire when you're training, I reckon. And be like, I'll do it when I finish my stretches.
I've got a certain amount of to do. But yeah, but it's always been a kind of natural. It's always been a part of my life. And again, some of these things that you just do all the time, you don't really realise. Kind of why you're doing all the benefit you're getting. You just presume it's become part of the landscape of your life, and it's always kind of been that way with me. And I suppose if I look back on it in today's terminology, I've always used boxing as an aid to my mental health.
Yeah.
I would never have said that back in the day.
It's just kind of natural.
Yeah, and it just started when I was 14, and it was of great benefit to me when I was younger, when I was 14, and learning to sort of develop and grow. But like I say, I just thought it's something I do.
Yeah.
And then
because that would be, I mean, we haven't got time today, but I know a bit about the reasons why you got into boxing.
Yeah.
So that another day, that's actually really.
Keep saying we haven't got time today, but we have got time today. Really, it's Sunday. We haven't really got a lot else to do.
Yeah.
But yes, and that was a lot of bullying. That was a lot of bullying, and that comes into. Why I was being bullied, which comes into identity, I think, and moving around and all that sort of stuff. But we haven't got time today to talk about that. We'll come to that another time. So people were saying these things to me, and like I say, it took me a bit by surprise. But then I kind of came to you and said, look, maybe there's something here. And you were saying, look, I've been thinking about doing something, and I'm very concerned about Didcot and the surrounding areas because you live in Didcot, and I live in Blueberry. And you said, there was a fella stabbed outside my house a while ago. I think the town is growing so big, the services are not there to support the town, and there is this sort of mental health crisis. And I really want to do something and develop something. And I think you were thinking about approaching me, and I was thinking about approaching you. And there's a lot of things in this Cornermen project have come about. It's just kind of fitted really well.
Yeah.
And it just seems one thing seems to have naturally led to another. So we had this initial conversation, and we wanted to start something. But we weren't exactly sure what it was. And I think those conversations then led to what we're going to do. We're going to narrow down into what service we can provide. And then I think it came to men's mental health, and it came to suicide prevention. And then I think, strangely enough to think back on it, I think it was you who actually came in and said, why don't we do it at the club? Because we initially were looking at getting somewhere, getting some premises and all this sort of stuff. And you said, well, look, why don't we? And then it was like...
That was the biggest hard, because it was quite nerve-wracking coming to someone and say, can we, I knew, but to come and say, oh, can we basically just use your club? It could. I'm so relieved you said
Well, I immediately thought it was a great idea. Yeah. And again, it's you're racking your brains thinking, how are we going to get these premises? And then all of a sudden it occurs to you, you've already got a lot of premises.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, that kind of makes sense. Use what you've got, and then that kind of, I think, just kind of dovetailed in when you're thinking about men's mental health, suicide prevention. We thought if we use the boxing club, we counter that narrative in a way of a therapy centre or something that maybe men feel is maybe a bit emasculating. You go to a boxing club. You go to a boxing club.
And
you get more material.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the club, that community feel there is here at the club, the beautiful setting it is, all the space you've got. It was ready made.
Yes.
And I'm sure you are very thankful to the members of this club who've been supportive right from the off.
Hugely, and it just felt like an extension of kind of what we were doing anyway, which is in a way what I wanted to do. I wanted to formalise. When people were saying to me, "This is really helping," and I'm saying, I'm thinking, well, can we formalise this in a way, and can we kind of use what we got to maybe reach out to people who need it and aren't really, there's people in the club that have stumbled across it and are using it. As I say, I've used it, and maybe we can get other people to come in and use it as well. So that was the idea, and then to bring in the professionalism you got, 23 years experience in support work. Obviously, you were a chief support worker at Emmaus.
I was called community leader.
Oh, is that better?
Well, it's kind of, because Emmaus is like a community.
Yeah.
So it's much more sort of like, all the problems that come with, a community, encapsulated in a building, and so I think community leader, that was my title there at Emmaus Oxford, which I did for 14 years.
Yeah.
So but essentially, my role was to make sure that the support was good.
And so I think that's what we thought, is if we could bring in the benefits. We know there's proven benefits to mental health of exercise. I think there's specific benefits related to boxing.
Yeah.
I think the cathartic exercise of punching things and letting things out. And if we could blend that with your professionalism and your knowledge and expertise,
I think
we could really have something that we could use to help people in our community, which was the whole ethos behind it. And so, to give the background to that, so we had these talks back in sort of summer of 22, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we came up with...
Well, I think it was sort of January when we first started talking, because I was starting...
I think maybe by summer we'd coalesced into this idea.
May, we'd spoke to Math Potts, hadn't we, who said you just got to go for it.
Yeah. And so the first step we're going to... we've got the name, so we'll talk through the name, and then we'll talk through the process of how we actually got to the stage of getting an active working service. So then when we come to this idea, we came up with the name of the Cornermen. And the idea of the Cornermen was, for the service we were going to provide, we were going to help men who are in crisis.
Yeah.
It's men's mental health and suicide prevention. And we are based in a boxing club. And the analogy, therefore, was that a boxer needs a cornerman.
Yeah.
So, and the cornerman's job is to advise and help the boxer in the fight. So to stretch this analogy out, we're seeing life as a fight.
Yeah.
Life can be a fight. Sometimes you're winning, sometimes you're on top, sometimes you're on the ropes, sometimes you're on the floor. And it's... Well,
I always say to the guys when I explain the analogy, I always say we didn't want to start a service that pretended we knew the answers. We're sort of alongside you in the fight, and the fighter is the only person who can fight the fight of their life. But you come back to the corner, and then you discuss tactics, strategies. But ultimately, all the cornerman can really do is sort of encourage you to get back out there for that next round, and then come back and we'll see how that went. So I really find that analogy really strikes home, has struck home quite a lot, because as we often say, people don't, they know what they need to do. I need to stop taking so much ketamine, I need to deal with my debts, I need to do this and this. So it's just about letting them identify, and then we discuss, and then get back out there, and it's going to be tough. You come back in. I hope people find that reassuring, that it is just okay. I've got to work my way through this, but there's just someone that's going to be constantly encouraging me.
Yeah. And I like
have their corner.
The truth in that analogy, that nobody can fight the fight for you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is down to you.
Yeah.
But we can help and advise.
Yeah.
And I love...
And not give up.
No, and I love that analogy. There's an old, I think it was Muhammad Ali said as well, which I always like, there's nothing wrong in going down. It's staying down that's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that cornerman is there to advise and help. And also, interestingly enough, obviously coming from the boxing background and having cornered hundreds of fights, and obviously watched the art of being a cornerman as well, and studied that, with the greats like Emmanuel Stewart and Eddie Futch and Ray Arcel and lots of different people, and how the cornerman works. And it's interesting to me that a cornerman is fairly superfluous. I've corner fights.
Yes.
Where you basically...
Well, I did one we did Jason's last... Well,
that
was interesting.
I thought the role of the cornerman there was quite important.
I did absolutely nothing.
But yeah.
I held a towel.
In itself, that was quite important.
Thank you, John.
But sometimes you're just a bucket carrier. So you go out, you carry a bucket, you've warmed them up, you get them in the fight, and then bang, and then they know what they're doing, and it's all going very well, and they come out the corner, and you kind of like, well, carry on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do it well, keep doing that. It's easy, very easy. Winning is easy in boxing.
Yeah.
And but when the cornerman becomes vital is when the fight starts going against you. When things start going wrong.
Yeah.
When you're losing the fight, then the cornerman can be the difference between victory and defeat.
Yeah.
So that's when it becomes absolutely important.
Yeah.
And it becomes absolutely vital. And you often see that fighters can come back after a bad round looking a bit lost.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell do I do now? And that's when the role of the cornerman becomes of paramount importance.
Yeah,
and that 1 minute in between rounds becomes absolutely vital.
Like as well as some, there are times the fight's harder than other times. So that, I think that's the other thing we tried to say to people, was that we didn't want to be a service that says, well, you come in and you see us for 6 sessions and then well down the rest of your life should be sort of sorted. Kind of like, there's going to be other times when you're going to need us, and that's where it's difficult to manage, but where we've liked to sort of just, if you're part of the cornermen, you kind of part of the cornermen. And recently this week, one of the very first wants to dip in just to meet up for coffee.
Yeah.
And say, this is what's going on. and they know where this is that kind of because one of the main drives was to kind of be a support for the other. You know, there's great services out there, you know, but they need to work with the most critical. We need something in our communities that is dealing with people, that's helping people at the, you know, when it you know matters most. As you mentioned, I was in homelessness. You know, it was frustrating meeting people and thinking, well, if there'd been something further down the line, you might not have ended up in absolute crisis. You know, so that was part of the drive. You know, when I was thinking about a service that would be great for Didcot and surrounding areas, was part of the drive there, really, to be that community and just, you know, be with everyone in the fight. You know, I think community is a big thing that we need, and kind of, you know, and the expansion of Didcot and every area that, okay, the more you get, the more you lose community. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with, and I'm sure you did, with stories of my, you know, they were very poor, my granddad and my dad, but the community was massive to them, and they went through wars and they went through poverty, and then, but the stories were always stories of, you know, fun and laughter and how they enjoyed them and got through it, and they, you know, they had to scratch around getting, you know, but they did a lot of it. They all lived as a family unit. They knew that, you know. So I think, you know, we've lost a bit of that. That sustained people through.
My family background is it's English, and my mum's from London. Yeah. And my dad's from Ireland. Yeah. And that family network, the Irish family network, was very, very strong. Yeah. And it was like your support network. Yeah. Fundamentally, it was like your social network, your support network. It's how you got jobs. Yeah. It's how you moved around. It's, you know, where you went to live.
And if you look at this project starting after your lockdown, you know, lockdown really reduced anything from that. You know, we went into isolation. Isolation is not good for people, you know, and so so maybe in that, you know, that was interesting, like what you're talking about when people come to the club, and, you know, maybe we noticed more, because there were moments of great community during lockdown, you know. So I think that was probably part of lockdown, realising that, oh man, you know, we need each other.
Yeah.
You know, we need to be community.
There's that great line with Math Potts, who you mentioned earlier. But Camarados, his organisation, the strapline to their organisation is the answer to our problems is each other. Yeah.
And so, I'm a big believer in that, and that's why, you know, we want the Cornermen to try and integrate with other services in the town. And I know Richard Kennel over at Sophia's really, they're trying to set up, like we spoke on their podcast, you know, interaction and working together. But getting back to
the origin story.
The origin stories.
So we're going to explore this as well, because origin stories, identity. I really want to talk to you more about that. We talked about that briefly the other day on the radio.
On the radio show.
Expand that.
Yeah.
But we haven't got time today.
No.
So back to the origin story. The Cornermen origin story. So like I say, by I think middle of 22, summer 22, we had the idea, didn't we? Yeah. We had the idea. We kind of knew what we wanted to do, but we obviously needed some funds to make this a reality.
Yes. Well, I definitely did.
Yeah. So we started crowdfunding. Yeah. And as you say, the support of the people at the club was fantastic.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
No, the majority of our donors were from the club, and they were chipping in decent amounts of money.
Yeah, exactly.
So we went through the crowdfunding thing, and we came at the end. How much did we raise for crowdfunding? Was it 12,000?
Yeah, it was about £12,000, and part of it was as well. I sold. My dad had a watch, and a made watch, and it was, you know, he didn't have a lot to hand down to me, but there was, I remember Mum saying, well, why don't you see what you can get for your dad's watch? So that was really, I think I got about £4,000 for the watch as well. Yeah. So that was really, for me, just, you know, to have a lot, because my dad died, you know, a few years ago. So it was, you know, for him not to be around to be part and see this. So it was nice to be able to take his watch and use, and to have that and say, well, actually, you know, Dad, you've helped get this going. So that was a nice moment for me, really. Because if I'd have sold the watch and it had never come off. So that was nice for me as well. The club, the position, the people, you know, it's you know, things come about at the right time. You know, hopefully we can keep going. But even if we don't, we get to the halfway through this year. I think we can safely say we did some good. And I think people who use the service.
I think it's fundamentally what it's about. And it's making some sort of difference.
Hopefully,
something.
Seems to be the feedback. Anyway.
And I agree with you. I mean, like I said, I'm sure it will carry on, but it's just, you know, it's that thing about trying. That thing about doing it. You know, and actually, rather than talking about it, actually doing it, actually trying to make a difference.
Yes, absolutely.
It's quite a powerful thing. So we got that money, the £12,000 crowdfunding, and then we got £10,000 lottery grant.
Yeah.
And I think at that point we were like, right, well, let's do it.
Let's
so
go.
You had to. Nothing really changed for me.
No. Yeah, it's a difficult conversation to go to your wife. Say, yeah, I'm leaving this secure job to try and set up this other scheme. Bless her. So it wouldn't happen without the backing of my family and my wife.
Yeah.
So we had to. We just went for it. I'm glad we did.
Yes, yeah, and I think that was obviously, like I said, the real big step had to be taken by you because things just carry on pretty much the same.
Yeah, it was difficult because I was like having to sort of. I didn't want to lie because I'd been involved setting Mace up, Mace Oxford, from the beginning. So that was a real baby of mine, real love of mine, and so I didn't want to just abandon. So I'd been telling them my plans right from when in that January I went to my boss and said, look, this is what I want to do, and he was like, yeah, okay, fair enough, but then he was very supportive, but it got to, so I was in communication with them, and so thankfully for them, they gave me that free, we negotiated well about, and they were really helpful, really, and it was like both ways. I didn't want to just abandon them, they give them time to find someone else, and it was exciting but quite nerve-wracking. But it just seemed to. It was quite seamless in the end. It worked out quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was quite difficult to manage, knowing you're leaving a place, wanting it to kind of be okay, and trying to set it up to get something else going. Because we didn't know how it was going to be. What we did do, we took it to Karen Lascelles, our idea, just because when we had this idea, we took it to Karen Lascelles before we did anything.
And what's her title?
She's a nurse consultant for suicide prevention in Oxfordshire. It was, at least at the time. I don't know if that's changed. And then Matt Williams, who's very high up in, done a lot of work with the Samaritans and men's mental health in Oxfordshire. So we sent it out. I remember sending it out to them and saying, "What do you think?" And they were kind of, "It's great. It fits into that suicide prevention strategy. Good luck getting some money and going with it," which we thankfully ultimately managed to do. So there was quite a bit of work that went in before we even sort of opened those doors, because really, and the thanks to those people who did give money to the crowdfunding, because they were taking a punt.
Yeah, totally.
Really, they didn't really know me. They knew you, so they really took a punt. And I'm glad that, like I say, even if it's got to this stage, they can feel okay. Well, for a year and a half or whatever, the Cornermen helped. We've helped over 110 men so far. So, even now, hopefully they can say, actually, they took a good punt and it turned out.
Also, what I love about that punt as well is it's just totally altruistic. Because they stuck 500 quid in, or let's say, or a few hundred quid. Yeah. And and not small amounts of money. And like you say, there was a chance that it was just going to kind of go nowhere. Yeah. But there was also the chance that even if their punt was successful, they don't get any money back.
No, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't come back. They don't own anything. There's no return. Yeah. There's nothing. It's a purely altruistic thing to do. So I was really, really touched.
Yeah, it's amazing when you talk about community. So and even I remember sort of when we went to Bands on the Boundaries. We'll get I can see you smiling. I'm not trying to segue it in, but we went to Bands on the Boundaries, and I can remember sort of a young kid just giving a tenner. Yeah. And so that that was.
It is amazing sometimes. I'm going slightly off topic here, but sometimes people do really want to help, and I often see that. We do the toy bank every year. Yeah. People don't know what toy bank is. We started that at the club about 6 years ago, and it was just the idea was that people could give a gift for Christmas, and then we would distribute it through contacts in Oxford Social Services, food banks, churches, to kids who might not get any presents. Yeah, and I think we did 7,500 presents last year, and that's just really taken off. Yeah, and so, but like you say, you get kids that come in and say, "I've saved up all this pocket money." The generosity of people. Given the opportunity to help, so many people.
And I think especially if it's local, because you can tangibly know big national charities. People tend to think, well, where's it going? But I think you can tangibly see, and that's what I'm talking about. The communities coming together, and that's Richard Kennell, as mentioned earlier, and Sophia, even Marky here, who's trying to set up a studio. There's real potential in Didcot and Wallingford. If we get all the services that we can make, we can't improve the world, we can improve ourselves, and we can do a little bit of something about our local communities.
Yeah.
You know, we can all take a bit of responsibility, and if we all do that,
Yeah.
a lot of our problems, especially locally, would be solved.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. Now we start taking responsibility. You're not thinking, oh, it should be someone else's responsibility to sort that out. Well, it's ours. We live here.
Yeah.
It's
And
our,
I think,
it's our
it's
town.
also, like you say, that frustration that you can feel, an inability to change the world.
Yeah.
And a frustration at what you can see going on your TV screens and the death and destruction and everything else. And you kind of want to change it. And when you think about, but what can I do?
Yeah.
And then you almost come to the conclusion you can't do anything.
Yeah, it's too
and
big.
It's very, and it's very frustrating and it's kind of depressing.
It's true, you can't do everything about everything. So you just do bits
exactly.
you can do about it.
It is true, but like you say, the way to do it is to do something.
Yeah.
To do something that moves that needle in the direction of good somehow. The smallest little thing.
Yeah, I think that's part of the thing. I think we've all got a responsibility to do something to make our where we live a bit better. You know, and so I'd encourage people to do that. No matter what it is you can't solve all the world's problems. I think we're a couple of we're men. We've got this we've got the set up to help men who we know there's a crisis in this country. The majority of suicides in in Oxfordshire are men killing themselves. The highest rate of suicides is men under 50. That doesn't denigrate.
Well, the leading cause of death for men under 50 is suicide.
That doesn't denigrate female suicides, but we're not in a position to do anything about that. That doesn't denigrate any other kind of area of suicide. They're all as tragic. But me and you, it's no good us starting up a women's service for women. We don't understand the issues. But what we do know is as being men, actually we can have a good kind of grasp on how men like to interact, and we've got the space, so therefore we have a responsibility. We can do something about this section, and if we join forces with all the others, we just play a part in operating in that section. And that's not to denigrate any other need, whatever it is, but this is what we can help with. And that doesn't mean that we don't recognise any other kind of issue or anything, but this is all we're in a position to deal with. And we work, and like you've said, it's not just a men's service, and we get mums and partners ringing, and so by helping who we do, we hope, because one of the, we have to say is that, men's mental health is probably responsible for most violence in society, and we're trying to make an impact in that. So we do leak out into other areas, and that's where I think, one of the things drives going forward would be to interact so much more with all the other services, just say, this is the part we play. But we feel very much part of the whole.
Well, exactly, and I think, so, I know people said to me when I started off saying it's a men's mental health and suicide, but they said, it's only for men then. And it's like, well, like you said, that's the small area that we think we can help in, the small area we think we've got some expertise in, the small area we think we can reach out and make a bit of a difference in. But the ramifications are, the reality is that when a man commits suicide, the ramifications, the ripples from that act are huge, and probably completely underappreciated by this person at the time. We think, they're isolated and they think, and it's generally women who pick up the pieces. It's women who have to look after the kids. It's women who have to, the burden of that can often fall on women to a disproportionate degree, I think. And so in a way, it is a service for women. It's just that's down the line.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that I'm keen to stress, especially sort of going forward, that we want to work in partnership with all the other services, but just making it clear this is what we're doing, and this is our lane, if you know. Only because this is what we know. There's no point in pretending we know everything, So I think that's what I mean about, we were talking about taking responsibility. So what can I do to help? Okay, I can do this little bit. And what I really like about it, the guys in the Cornermen helping each other as well. That was a big part of Emmaus. Trying to build a community within a community, so that ultimately we want is when someone's struggling, they can pick up the phone to other people. Trying to build that network.
And I think it's very interesting as well, as you've remarked before, that helping someone kind of helps yourself, because what we've found in the service is that when we can give people that bit of responsibility and say, listen, can you pick this person up and bring them here and buddying people up in a way, it gives the person who was isolated or depressed or that bit of responsibility to help someone else kind of lifts them. To think, I've got to do this now, I've got to be there for that person.
Purpose and meaning.
Purpose and meaning, which is the key to it. Which I think, when you zoom out of that as well, is probably the same thing for us. The reason for doing this is purpose and meaning.
Absolutely.
And that, in a way, helps us as well.
Undoubtedly, and that's what I say to guys. This isn't, and it isn't some expert sitting you in a chair and saying this is how you should sort your life out. It's saying, well, this is what I found works for me, because we're all just as messed up and idiotic as each other. You know, we all mess up, and I'm not telling you this is just what works for me, finding something for meaningful and purposeful, meaning, exercise helps, and I'm not an exercise person. I think one of the things I learned from here is it's the after effect I want.
Yeah.
I don't, you ask Stano, bless him, I moan all the way through his session. But at the end I feel good. So I'm doing it, it's like my medicine. So that's what I'm saying, we're always saying to the guys is, look, let's try and find, and let's identify what you need to change. Because there is going to be bits that are causing these issues, but we never say, I think I know what it is. You don't sit there and go, I think you're drinking. People, like I say, people know. So someone will say, you don't need to say anything. I would like to, we don't sort of say, you think, I think I need to stop drinking so much. I want to stop using ketamine. I've taken too much cocaine at the weekend. It's making me feel down. I need to people know what they need to do. So I think that's what I think we're trying to do. Paint the picture here is it's not some kind of we're alongside you. We're not. We're telling you what works for us, and we're just going to encourage you. So I think that's part of what kind of helps in a way.
I think also is the acknowledgement to a lot of people, just the acknowledgement that, as you've often said, people can come in with these feelings. I've got guilt, I've got anxiety, I've got grief. These are normal emotions that often, you can sit there with someone and say, you're supposed to feel like that.
Yeah. Or sometimes I say it's not a mental health, it's emotional health.
Yes.
That people say, my head's fucked. We're on podcast now, I can swear, but we just have to put a kind of explicit. I think that makes us look a bit more rogue, John. Anyway, but people often say, my head's fucked. What's going on? Somebody's died, lost their job, lost a relationship. They're like, or I feel guilty. Yeah, well, that's what you've described. That's the correct emotion that you should be feeling. There's nothing wrong with you. That's being human. And I worry that people think that we should be just always kind of feeling great.
Yeah, and also I think the acknowledgement that there isn't necessarily a quick fix to those things.
Yeah.
There isn't. I mean, you were telling me about somebody who felt a great deal of anger over something that happened that they should feel angry about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a terrible violation that happened to their family, and they should feel angry about that. And then somebody had immediately said to them, or their therapist, was forgiveness. Go for forgiveness. Now
there's a few stages before that.
Exactly. They're right. Yeah. They're right. The ultimate aim is to arrive at that, letting go of that anger and that forgiveness. That they're absolutely right. But just to say go from there to there, that's just not possible. That's not human.
No.
There's a lot of stages to deal with and go through. But you do want to start moving from here to here. But you can't. You don't want to stay there all the time because it'll eat you up. But moving is a gradual process.
I think that's probably
it's a hard process.
One of the things we probably, if I could say that we do well, is dealing with being comfortable with anger, because anger's quite scary, especially if you've had someone that's been angry with you. But here we've got boxing, we've got punch bags, we've got all sorts of stuff. So, and anger's an emotion. I think if you watch that little documentary we had done, Matt Williams talking about spaces where male aggression can sort of be harnessed, and so I think what we are lucky is someone's angry, okay, you're entitled to be angry, get on that bag, I'm pointing but people can't see it, but just behind us, get on that bag and give it just go, and you see, and so they wear themselves out with anger and then they talk. You've got to get over that bit.
Totally.
I'm too tired now, my anger's spent, now I need the emotion of why I'm angry. All right, mate, get on there and just wear yourself out. But often people have a much more, they think, because you get tired quickly. If you really ever a bag. So I think, if that's one area where we can we work is if someone's angry, it's not such of a problem. If it's in a confined environment like an office or something, it's very intimidating.
Oh yeah. But I think bottling up that anger or being told to dissipate that anger without anything like that. Like,
Do some mindfulness exercises.
It can make you angry. It can make you angry. And like you said, then it becomes a threatening anger, and then it pollutes the environment you're in, and it's a self-perpetuating, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So there's a place to let it out, and a place to deal with it, and a place to almost realise you're going to have to come to some sort of terms with this. Yeah. Like I said, the bag is a great analogy because you can wail away at a bag for maybe 60 seconds if you're quite fit, and then so what are we going to do now?
Yeah,
so
that's
I'll put that out, let's talk about it. That comes to the talking thing. And that, coming back to what I was saying earlier about why it's what we do, or what I've found people saying it's so useful, is I think there's that physical release. Yeah. And that kind of just puts you in a frame of mind to do a bit of a mental release as well. And also, it's with men, it's talking in the gaps. They work because nobody was coming to me for a therapy session. Nobody was coming to me saying, "Listen, John, I've had a really hard day. Lots going on in my mind.
No, exactly.
My relationship's going to pot, so I'm going to come and see you." It's not like that. It's like, let's do some boxing. So they come and book a session, and then it just so happens that we might talk in the gaps because the nature of boxing is that 2 minutes. Let's say hard work, and then a minute rest, and then so you've got constant rests and gaps, and it's in those gaps that people talk. You're not sitting down and saying, "Let's talk." You're doing something. And then as a side,
and I think if you're suicide, there's some really people worry about being an expert. I'm clear with we're not therapists. I've got lots of training, brief therapy, all sorts of suicide prevention, but we're human. And I think people worry about too much. I'm not qualified. We're all human. We all know what it feels like. So it's not rocket science when we say to people, look, you come up here. We exercise for a bit, it makes you feel better, we talk, and we encourage it, we just identify things you can change, and where I think we do work well is if people have got higher issues, then they often talk about what they're going to talk about when they go to therapy. Here, it's like a first kind of, and it's more listening, we listen more than anything else, and you say, I think you should talk about that, and so I think that's where we fit, I think we can fit nicely in other gaps, I think a lot of guys don't want to go and sit and talk to a stranger. And what we do, because we haven't got a time limit, we can build a relationship. It doesn't have to, we're not in a rush to say, right, when they come for here, he'll fill this for me and I want to know how much of a risk you are to you and everyone around you. What's your name? Come up and meet us. Have a sit down. Tell me about yourself. Or actually what we do anything is we tell them about ourselves, about the Cornermen. I don't bore them to death with, the history of Arsenal Football Club and, and about where I live and everything. But, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is what, why I'm doing this, this is why it's set up. I talked to him, and we talked to him about Thomas Joyner's theory of suicide, and we talked to him about, the influences such as Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, that have influenced the way we work. And then no pressure, and tell me about yourself if you want now, or and things come out in the weeks. 1 week, and then because I think like we all do, if someone wants to look at you, see if you're a bit of a dick or not, and they think, oh, this guy is a dick, but he's all right. So I think it's building. It's not just straight in. Tell me who wants to tell a stranger the worst parts. It's not a good opening start for a conversation. It makes people very defensive. And it was always a frustration of mine, but it makes sense, when I'm running a service, you need to assess risk for everyone else that's there, for your staff team and for the people, especially if it's residential. So here I don't have to do that. Don't have to come straight in with, right, how awful are you? How much of a risk? What's all the bad stuff you've done? Because I think that just reinforces, you're asking someone to tell you all the stuff that they're, straight away. But here it's nice. You go, all right, tell me about yourself, and people have got, people aren't idiots, and everyone's got something about them that they're very good at, and it's about hearing that side as well. So that's and why I really like enjoying what we're doing. It's because of the freedom, and just be careful because you don't want to do damage to people. And that's why it's important to keep checking what we're doing with the likes of the suicide prevention and services and people that we really respect. But the kind of freedom to not have to, because to have to work in a certain way, because what governments or whatever, they want bang for their buck. They want a system that works. I want to pay this much money, and I want it to work that way, and I want it to help everybody. So that you put them in this thing, they go through it, and everyone's fixed. But everyone's individual. You've got to find what works for in an individual level. And I think the beauty of what I'm allowed to do here is hear the person, what they want to do, what works for them, and then help them map their way out. Rather than saying, well, this is the program. You come in, you come through this program. We do 6 weeks here of boxing. We do 3 weeks on the bags, and then you've got to tell me everything, and that's 3 weeks. It can be so much more fluid. And I think that comes from the experience of working with people with autism. If you're working with someone with autism, you've got to find their way of communicating. Because if you don't, you're not getting through. You've got to find and each person with autism's got a different way of communicating. And that's when I worked in Reading for a couple of years. That was really, I think, really valuable to be able to work with lads with autism, having to interact with them. You've got to find their way of communicating. I think we're all a bit like it. You've got to find each individual's way of communicating. I think we get the time here to do that. So that's why, I think it's really nice to be able to have done this. And tell people, and then show, get the results and show people that, so hopefully.
I mean, coming back in results, how would you, because we talked about the origin story, and like I say, with the crowdfunding, so it was really November 2022 when we finally pushed that button. And you left to Madison, came here and started working full time. And then, so, we're now, we fast forward, we're in February 24. And give us some numbers.
Give us some numbers.
Figures about, who's been through and,
All right, well, a bit on a hop because, my memory is terrible, but we've done, we've had over 110 men contact us, and I think we've probably worked with about 85%. Now, what sometimes happens is that when I say people contact us, what I've noticed is someone will contact us. I had someone recently contacted us last year, but he's only recently come up. So often you get people ask a long time ago, and they've taken them a while to get, I've been thinking about coming. So, but I think we've worked with at least over 8% of that. So I haven't got that, but, I think what I'm most pleased about was, there's always that, men want to talk, how do you get a service? Now, with the first day, I was always a bit worried that we would just be sat here twiddling our thumbs. Yet the first day, we've been since the first day, and we get an average of 7 referrals a week. Now that's going up.
And those referrals, obviously there's the website, that all people refer through that, but there's a lot of referrals coming from, I know from Didcot, from the health centre, and other
Turning
places.
Turning Point as well. So and we've had Elmore team, we've had AMHT, we're getting referrals from the GPs, we get referrals from all over, but the ones we're really after as well are the self-referrals, and we get a high amount of self-referrals. And I think it's interesting, you get sometimes with a Turning Point referral or from a GP, you get a number, but not always does someone come up, and I wonder if that's because they associate, it's just a professional. The people who really stay with us are the ones whose friend has said to them, you should go there, I've been to the Cornermen, why don't you go? So it's interesting to see that. I don't know if it's a male thing, but I think it is. I'm much more likely to trust what my mate tells me than what the GP I see every sort of 9 months tells me. And there's no denigration to GPs at all. Just saying that's maybe the way we're wired. Okay, I want to know someone that's been through it. And they're going to tell me it's all right. So I think it's really interesting. I haven't done the statistics on it, but I think there's much more chance of someone engaging and remaining with us if their mate's gone,
well, we find the same thing in the club, that somebody joins, it's then all their
makes sense, doesn't it?
I always joke that, if they're sending you down here, as long as you don't get bashed out, they'll join.
So it makes sense. So that really be interesting, but, part of the problem, I think there's lots of good, so maybe a pill for a volunteer, but I think there's lots of good data that, we've got, and I can only record so much because at the moment, obviously I'm chasing funding, I'm trying to record evidence, and I'm doing the actual support work. So it'd be really interesting to get someone who's, and my brain is not analytical, it just isn't. So it'd be really good to have someone that's really into digging down into those type of things, come over and look. Because I think there'd be some interesting stuff, and we would get some learning from it as well, because we always want to improve. And so feedback from the guys is important as well. So that would be I think it'd be interesting to see now, we've got over a year's worth of statistics and things. to what's really going on. One of the things I'm most pleased about is, you know, there's suicide statistics for Oxfordshire, you know, men between 20 to sort of up to into their 50s now is, you know, getting into the 60s. So so we hit that.
I did see an interesting stat the other day, actually, that the age when men are most likely to commit suicide. Suicide is the leading cause of death for men under 50.
Yeah.
And you know, that's car crashes, cancer, that sort of thing. But the age when men are most likely to commit suicide is between 50 and 55. Now, obviously, it's not the leading cause of death then, because there's so many other things that can knock you off the perch at that point, illness and everything else. But you're most likely to do it during that age. You know, that was quite an interesting statistic, and that's the same for women as well, 50 to 55.
Yeah, and it's interesting because our age range goes from sort of 18 to 62, and you know, it's for guys. And this is where I'm sure, you know, meaning and purpose and probably needs more looking into. But you know, if you get into your 50s, maybe you retire, or you're in a breakdown. There's been a breakup. It's very, you know, it's harder to work with, you know, people in that age bracket, because what you're going to say, you know, you've got your whole life ahead. You can see with someone you're 18, oh, you can do this, this, and this. But for someone in his 50s, it's, you know, to try and find a motivation for them. You know, because you've got to be realistic. You know, if someone's lost all the house in the divorce and they're like, oh, I'm going to get I've got no money. You've got to try and help them find that purpose, and often, you know, that's family. So it's a really interesting. So I'm not surprised by that from my experience, you know. And that's where, you know, we could get a bit more deep in what our culture says about, you know, getting old, you know, how much wealth you should have, and how you know other cultures maybe if you can contribute to society because you're wise and you've been through a lot of stuff. So because I really think that you know, part may play into it, but that's just me. I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but it's just a thought of mine that I sometimes think.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think often men as well think that they kind of they can't do it again, they can't start again. Which often, that's the situation that some men can find themselves in, like you say, if there's a divorce, breakup, business failure, whatever, they can find, you know.
So I think it's about being sympathetic to that, but also saying, well, it's also not completely true. Because there is stuff you can be doing, you know, you can be helping others. That's where I think that's where it really comes into play, that you have a purpose, and that could be to help others.
Yeah.
You know, it's having a lot of talk. Yeah, exactly. So I went on a bit of a tangent there, but you know, just as we started to talk about those statistics, but like I say, really, if anyone, you know, is interested in that kind of stuff, welcome to come and see me.
Yeah. So from that origin story then, to where we are now. So we started off talking about this origin story really in January 22, I suppose. And then we're talking the coalescing of the idea and really deciding what we would like to do in the summer of 2022, and then that becoming a reality in November 2022, and then working through to, like I say, here we are in February 24. And I mean, from that point of view, I think it's been a success. In a way, it's a success that it's still here. It's still working, it's still functioning. But outside of that, I think it's been a success in itself as well.
I think even like we say, if we don't, you know, it all comes to an end in January because we don't get the June because of the funding, we can at least look back and say, look, this is the body of work we did. Yeah. We did some good. Hopefully it doesn't.
Presumably that is going to come.
We're working hard to do it.
It should be easy to keep going and to start it. But where do you see it going? So where do you see us in let's say February 26? Where would you like to see it?
Well, I think your hair will be longer.
No, definitely. I mean, that's what I'm working on primarily. That's why I'm asking you the question.
Where do I see it? Well, I think it's difficult, but it'd be nice to have maybe one or two staff members, so I can sit, you know, be chasing the funding, talking, making, you know, training people up, so that we can help more people. You know, I think we could advertise, you know, if we've got one or two people that can do the support, we can help more people. That'll bring other problems. You know, do we need, you know, where, you know, because don't overtake the club. So there's all these problems that will come up with that. But, you know, and I think maybe diversifying a little bit, you know, we could maybe have a women's service. I don't think we'd go into youth because there's a lot of youth services around, you know, but...
although from my own personal experience, I think they're very... like I say, I've got a bit of that in the family, and it's very, very sparse.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and it's a very difficult area. It's a very difficult area to get into.
Yeah.
But it's, I think the services are quite sparse. I mean, I think they are for everything really. Everything's kind of cut.
And I suppose it'd be nice, I think, for more kind of the guys who use the service supporting each other. I think to expand that area where there's peer support, they're doing activities together, so that what we want is something sustainable, for people. So what we need to build is a community of people looking after each other, because that's the only way, I think it will last. If you do, it's all very well. If someone starts relying on coming just to see me, it's not sustainable, If something happens to me or, what we want is people supporting each other out in the community. I think that's one way I'd really like to tackle some of the issues that people face, is that, okay, there's more than one source they can go to. So that'd be nice to do. I'm just, in a way, just happy, excited to see where it does go. Often sometimes, like you say, these things fall in our lap, someone comes along with a great idea. What about you, John? Where do you see it? And because I've got a question for you in a moment.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
But I just plot that date out of the air. I just said February 26th, and I was thinking, actually, February 26th, this club will be 20 years old.
Yeah.
20 years.
Wow.
That's where did that go?
People say it flies by. Genuinely, until you start getting in your 40s, don't realise it actually it does.
Yeah, do I had this wonderful old lady on the radio the other day. It's always stuck with me. It was obviously on Radio 4, and this she's one of these like indefatigable kind of upper class ladies who's been out to the desert and done this and done that, and she was in her 80s, and the presenter said to her, "Do you find that time goes faster as you get older?" She said, "Oh my God, yes. It's hardly worth taking the tree down these days." And I kind of get you start thinking about Christmas, and you start thinking,
the kids, it just flies by. But that's why I think we're only on this earth for a very, very short period of time, actually. And are you going to make your time count? Are you going to be a good? When you look back, are you going to be a good influence on this earth? Did you contribute to making it better, or did you do everything you could to make it the world worse? Yeah. That's quite a high drive for me.
Yeah. No, I think absolutely the same for me. And like you say, you realise as well, when you say things like that, 20 years, we're in there 20 years. So when we start, I'll be 35, and so, then I'll be 55. It was 20 years. So 20 years after that, if that was a blink of an eye 20 years ago, then that would go even faster, and I'll be 75. So, it's, and then you start to be thinking, well, what am I going to leave behind? Yeah. What have I done? Yeah. And what have I made a difference for? And I think, you'd like to think there's some stuff in the positive column.
Absolutely.
And also, but I think also you've got to recognise the negative column.
Well, it sometimes has to come before the positive.
Yeah. And you've got to learn from that. Yeah. And so moving forward, I think you've got to think, well, I've really got to sort of now I should be at a point where I've got things together a bit. Yeah. And I should be really working to increase that sort of what's in the positive column. And I'm just talking about, and I think that's kind of reward in itself. I mean, I think it's like we see these people who live in a negative way, in a negative environment, causing negative stuff. They put themselves in hell. Yeah. Everybody around. Imagine living in a world where nobody liked you. Yeah. Everything fell apart. Things didn't work. It's just hell. Yeah. And people put themselves in that hell. And I think if you go the other way, the reward is that people tend to like you. People tend to get on with you. People give you time. People, you live in a world that you want to live in.
Yeah, I think as well. There's that kind of. It's got to be modelled as well. I always have worked with people that with their upbringing. People tell me stories about when they were a child, and they think it's normal. And to me, it sounds like they're living in a horror film. And you think, oh well, if you don't know what a kind of good family environment should look like, or a sound, positive. If it's not in your realm of, where'd you get it from? The Hallmark Channel, but that's just twee. So I was very lucky. I had good male role models to show me how to be a family man, or even so. If you've never had it, if you've grown up in chaos, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but it's a very difficult. So we need to sort of, often we're talking about people like, okay, they need a bit of help, to kind of understand why you do these things, and why it's important. I think that seems to be missing sometimes.
The parameters of normal are set, like you say, in childhood, and sometimes people are very extreme.
Oh, horrific! Yeah. So but bringing it down, but so I am hopeful about the future, and you know, one of the things, the origin stories, we can't go, John. No, I mean, I do tease you, but actually, you know, it's been great fun, and it adds a really fun element to everything we've done, you know, and it does allow me to take the mickey out of you, which I'm very grateful for. You take it with good grace. But the band. Now, I'll be honest with you, John, you know, I love you dearly. I knew that when we started this, there would be some kind of maybe way that you would use it to, well, to, you know, to get, you know, out there talking, you know. I thought you'd maybe try, and like when we met Buntsy at Steve Bunce in the state, I thought maybe you'd go sort of into the more to the boxing kind of, this is what I'm doing. But no, out of left field, completely out of left field, you picked up a guitar.
Yes.
So, and started the Cornermen band. Now, I think we've got our ask. So if people don't know, we've got the support service, which is the Cornermen Suicide Prevention, Men's Mental Health, and there is the Cornermen band.
Yes. And
We're like the Monkeys.
Bit like the Monkeys, yeah. Exactly. There was a TV series and they had a band. You know what I mean? It was like it kind of went together, and it's very similar. Yeah. So we've got a support service with a band. You know, why wouldn't you have a band with a support service?
Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Yes. So going back to that origin story, yes. So I picked up a guitar. You know,
I didn't even have you pegged as musical. I mean, I know you like music. We've talked about music.
Yeah, I kind of like music. No, I mean, I picked up a guitar, I think, when I was about 17, 18.
Yeah.
And I basically played for about 6 months. Didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was travelling when I was 18. I thought I could go busking.
Yeah.
And I did that a bit. I cobbled together a couple of tunes, but I didn't do a lot. And then I came back, put the guitar down, and never really picked it up again. I always had the idea that I would pick it up again.
Yes.
It just took me 30 years to pick it up again.
And playing the long game.
And then I started kind of just fiddling around with the guitar, I suppose really during lockdown, that classic thing. And all I wanted to do really was to be able to sing a song from start to finish. And I thought, when I've done that, that'll do me. I want to be able to play a song.
Yeah.
Not my song, any song. Just from start to finish. I thought that'd be cool. And so I was messing around on the guitar, and then like I said, and then I thought after a couple of years, I thought I'll take some guitar lessons. So I contacted a guy in Didcot who, I saw something on Facebook, a guy called Tom Dolby.
Yeah.
He was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I started having some lessons, and I found, this really helps, rather than just trying to pick it up off YouTube. These lessons really help. And I was closer to my
So what we're saying is Tom's fault.
Yes, it's largely Tom's fault.
Tom Dolby's fault.
Yeah. But a bit like you feel, I think Tom also feels that I've kind of latched onto him and then merely used him to facilitate my own ambitions. So I started playing the guitar, and then Tom said, he heard about what we were doing with the Cornermen. He was running an event called Bands at the Boundary. He was part of the event at Bands at the Boundary. And on a Sunday, he had an open mic slot, and I started doing a couple of open mics, which again was just once I could play a song all the way through in my bedroom, I thought,
you would arrange it.
Maybe I'll do an open mic.
Yeah.
That'd be the next thing. I'll do an open mic.
Yeah.
I'll just do one open mic.
That'd be it. I'll be satisfied with that.
Yeah. So I did a couple of open mics, and then Tom said, listen, I'm doing this open mic. Bands at the
Tom's fault again.
Tom's fault again. All comes out of Dolby.
Yeah.
He said, why don't you come along to the open mic and do, a couple of songs, and you can talk about your crowdfunding.
Yes.
So this is July 22. Yeah. And he said, so come along and do that. So I said, yeah, that'd be great. So me and you went down to Bands on the Event, just round the corner from your house.
Yeah.
And great event. And so we went out on stage, and I just went out and went, we are the Cornermen.
Cornermen.
And there was a massive cheer went up from all these people. There must have been 500 people there. Big cheer went up. And then I had to go, no, we're not a band or anything. We're just like...
Oh, in the back of your head.
Oh, in the back of my head. Well, I think the idea was instant.
Yeah.
Because, and they said, the Cornermen is a mental health and suicide prevention service that we would like to start, and we're crowdfunding. If anybody wants to donate, they can go to da-da-da-da. Kind of killed the mood. And then I murdered like 3 songs and came off. But I did think that would be a great name for a band.
Yes.
And so I approached Tom and another guy in the club, Nick, who's a drummer, and I said, can we just put a Cornermen band together, we'll call it the Cornermen, and we'll do a gig at this pub in Abingdon. And then we'll do it as a crowdfunding thing.
And that'll be it.
Raise money for the crowd, that'll be it. And again, manoeuvring into where I want.
I think it's called manipulation, John.
So, and they said, oh yeah, that'd be fun. So we did that, and then funnily enough, somebody I didn't record it or anything, but I saw someone when I was singing. I'd written one song then, and then we did that song amongst a few covers. And I saw somebody on their phone recording it. So I found that person in the pub. I said, "Did you record that?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Can you ping it over to me?" I said, "All right." Anyway, so I put it up on Facebook. I said, "Oh, great fun at this gig. Recorded this song," and this was us playing the song. And then, and like I say, it's just always one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
And then at Bunkfest. I'm walking through Bunkfest, and there's a mate of mine who runs, Steve Beattie, who runs Plastic Head Records in Plastic Head Distribution in Wallingford. And he shouted out to me, oi, it's that bloke that can't sing. And I said, that's nothing, you should hear me play piano.
Yeah.
And so he said, all right, what have you been doing then? I said, I just recorded that. He said, I didn't know you played guitar. I said, I don't really, you know what I mean? So and he said, if you're writing your own stuff, you should record it. And I was like, oh no. No,
no. Me? No. Why would
he said, no. He said, take this. This is another mate of mine in Reading. And John Mitchell, another lovely guy. He said, call John. He said, you won't believe it. He said, when you go and see John, you know what I mean, it'll sound great, and you know what I mean, you'll really enjoy that.
Yeah, you won't believe it. It'll sound great.
Yeah. Totally. Not like it sounded on video on Facebook. So, then I thought, do you know what? If I could record one song, one of my own songs, that'd do me.
Give you an inch, John.
That'd do me.
Give you an inch.
Yeah. So we went to see John and recorded a couple of songs, and put them up on Spotify, and that went quite well. And then I talked Nick, and then another mate of mine said, "Oh, you know, I see that thing at your Facebook. Yeah. Do you want to back us up at the Jericho Tavern?" So I thought, Jericho Tavern's like a venue, I want to play there. Yeah. So then I talked Tom and Nick into doing another gig, and so we did that. So in that sort of late November 22, by then we played the Jericho Tavern, put those things up on Spotify. I thought that'd do me, and then in 23. I think, and then all these gigs came in, so we ended up doing about 18 gigs in.
It was good fun.
2023, and I kept writing these songs and recorded them. So by the end of 23, we'd recorded 14 songs, put them all up on Spotify. In May 23, we started getting paid by Spotify, which came as a big shock to me.
Yeah, and me.
So we started getting paid monthly by Spotify.
Yeah.
100 quid or so, 150 quid. And that went straight into the service. All the money we got from the gigs went into the service. Yeah. It gave us an opportunity to also talk about the service to people. So we're going out to these festivals in the summer, which we're doing again this summer, and saying that with the Cornermen, it's actually a men's mental health suicide prevention service. And we played a mixture of our own stuff and covers. And so there we go. So the band has done that. And in a way, it's good because when we did a podcast the other day for Sophia, and she was, the band. And then it's like you say, when you wheel the stats out, it doesn't sound so bad, but it's like, and then I decided to start a Cornermen band. Yeah. And it's like, well, actually, we make money monthly off Spotify. Yeah, we've recorded 14 songs. We've got quite a lot of radio play on the Christmas song, across Radio Oxford, Radio Wallingford, all this sort of stuff.
I mean, it's a real another element of fun.
It's fun, and it is a talking point. And you've said people have come along, having seen the band.
Yes.
Not directly attributable to the band.
No, there's not some kind of weird, sick thing where we make people suicidal and depressed by listening to music.
No. They were already some kind of mad when they came to listen to the band, but the band pointed in that direction and they contacted you. So that's a real positive thing to me. That kind of, and that's that making it a bit of fun and making it a bit
fun.
Different.
I think one of the things we do use a lot in the Cornermen is laughter and fun. It's a very serious subject, but it's really upbeat. You come along to the Cornermen, it's upbeat. We have our moments where it's really, we're talking and it gets very serious. But a lot of the time the Cornermen is a lot of fun. I think the guys make that as well. The guys who come along.
Yeah.
And the band's I do honestly I think the songwriting is amazing. I think the words, and I think if we do more podcasts, I think we'll talk about some of what the songs mean. But they're amazing. It is good fun, and
And there's a little bit of validation behind that for me as well, because like I say, it was kind of new to me, and it's all like bloke in his 50s starts writing songs, playing guitar in his bedroom.
It fits into what we.
And exactly, we actually got a record deal at the end of last year.
But imagine getting to I don't know, you're just in front of St. Peter or whatever, you've got, and he's like, and you're like, God, I wish I'd actually given it a go. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that you've been really good at is, you can take a joke and you've actually just gone, I want to do this and I don't actually care. There are going to be people that, that may laugh, but I want to do something I want to do. Imagine not doing something in your life because you were worried about imagine getting to your deathbed and going, it's too late then.
But I think that's how you answer it. But you take the mick out yourself as well.
Yeah,
that's
where
And it's like I say that when Steve said to me, "Oh, it's that bloke that can't sing." I just said, "Well, that's nothing. You should either play piano." Yeah. It's like, it's like I know something's wrong.
And sometimes if it's a mate,
I know something's painful, but it's like, but I'm enjoying it, and also it's proved. And again, this is a way of looking at things that maybe we look at differently now we've done the service. for my own mental health, as a form of self-expression, as creativity, it's been amazing for me, and it's got me through some quite dark times and some quite difficult times. And it's and it's felt a bit like, for me, it's a bit like almost like having an affair, almost like having a love affair. It's been very much like that. It's been like, it's something that obsesses your head. It's always going on in your head. You're always thinking about it, and you develop it, and you want to see where it goes, and it's like, hope for the future, and then like through some dark times. And I also think for me, boxing's been incredibly positive for me, as I said, and it might be interesting to talk one day about that journey. Well, through boxing and how it's helped, and also that retrospectively applying these things of, why did you do that? Well, did you see what that did for you? See how that developed you? See how that stopped you going down that path? And I can see all that in my life. But one thing, and I've always been active and loved boxing, and obviously it's handy to work in a boxing gym for the last 20 years. But I stopped sparring when I was 50, and I was 53 years ago. And funny enough, that's an element to boxing that I found very difficult to let go of. And I always found sparring an amazing. Again, I'm looking with hindsight now. It's almost like mindfulness, because you can't think about anything else when you're in there sparring with someone. It's a puzzle to solve. It's very interesting, and I mean that whether the person's better than you or worse than you, you've still got to think about how they're going to move, what they're going to do, whether you're trying to bring them on or you're trying to survive in there and work out what they're doing. And I found that very cathartic. And I was sparring a lot, with lots of different people, and I just thought, you've got to stop at some point. I've been being hit in the head since I was 14. 50, seems a good time to stop. So
that explains a lot.
Yeah, there you go. That's not bloody
I've been hitting the head a lot since I was 14. Oh, right, okay. Fair
so,
enough.
you just got, at some point, you've got to stop. At some point, to be honest, it did start to hurt a bit more. Things that bounced off before, stopped bouncing. And that was, funny enough, that coincided exactly when the music just took off for me and really became an integral part of something that I was trying to develop and something that I was trying to do. And so I think it's been a kind of replacement for that. Well, but it's the same thing. When I'm in that, there's a certain mode you can get into where you just get lost in it and you focus totally on it and you're lost in that moment. And like I say, it's that mindfulness, it's that living in the moment. And I had that in sparring, which I haven't got anymore, and boxing, and I've got that in music now, and and I can have that for as long as I want. So that's kind of, it's been a very it's been a very good thing for me. And it's been fun. And like I say, you've got to take the mick out of yourself. But also, it's nice that, because, like I say, I didn't put it down, and I didn't say it's silly, and I didn't give it up, and I didn't. When a lot of people thought that, and now there is an element of validation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look on Spotify. So you might think it's crap, but we've had 300,000 streams. We've made a couple of £1,000 for the support service.
Finding purpose and meaning, something you enjoy. You've had to say goodbye to sparring. It's not coming back. That's one life. You've enjoyed it when it's done. So there's an element of loss there, which if you can, but you've replaced it with something challenging. And something that gives you a purpose and meaning. So it's psychologically, it's perfect. And also the thing about music is one of the things I always say to someone, even if you just come along to the Cornermen and don't tell me anything, if you walk out, if you've been feeling bad, you walk out feeling good for an hour. Because music can change our moods and stuff.
And you use music in the sessions, don't you? Because in the gym we've got various iPods.
So I let people come and put, I always say, what music do you want on? And we put their favourite music on. We come in here, in this ring actually, in this area, and do, because, all those little bits, doing the talks, doing the rap in their hands, and the music on, and you can see people when they start, the pads makes you smile, and, it's just to feel good. Put the music.
And it's, in a way, when you think about it, when you break that down, what a lovely environment to put someone in, where you listen to music that you enjoy and like. You've got someone there that's talking to you. You're also doing something.
Making crap jokes.
And you're also doing something, and it's something that's got a purpose and will make you feel good afterwards. Even before you start talking about the fact that mind-body connection, the exercise will make you feel better. So what a positive place to put people. So I'm really grateful for you, John, for allowing it to happen at the club and being part of it, supportive, and so hopefully we can keep going. And I'd like to do more podcasts. I've enjoyed this. It's fun. And I think that's the origin story. I think there's a lot to talk about, and the reason we want to develop this is because we've been doing a radio show on Radio 1, which has been great fun. And we just chat, And but sometimes we come across some really interesting stuff.
We have to stop it.
Amongst the records.
Yeah.
We have to stop it, and then it's just gone into the ether because the radio show lasts for 2 hours.
Yeah.
There's no listen again.
Yeah.
There's no nothing, and we touch on things. And like I say, when we touched on identity and belonging, and I think I'd like to explore that in maybe our next podcast.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I had friends that night. I went back after our last radio show. I went back to sort of just outside Milton Keynes, and my friends had been listening to it because we did a dedication to a friend who'd died, and they said they could have done with more talking.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we just means we haven't bored everyone.
Yeah. They sat through all this.
Yeah, well, even me and you, it's just nice to have a chat, really.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed it, John.
Yeah.
And it's been beautiful to sit here and see the sunlight come through.
Cascading
through
the hair.
See, this is why you're the lyrical man. That's right, yeah. And I've got to go and pick up my Lily. We're going to go home for lunch and have some Sunday lunch with the family now.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm going to go and got a bit of work to do, and then I think we're going to the cinema tonight.
You play some guitar today, John?
I'm playing some guitar. The gig at the Jericho.
Oh!
The gig at Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
16th of March, so I need to practice that. So I'm going to run through the set list and today and just I'll start to get ready for that. So 5 weeks.
Also,
5 weeks.
I know it's sold out, but we've got the Rumble coming up on the 2nd of March. But just a big thank you to Joe Howard, who's such a supporter of what we do.
Yeah.
And he's put a lot of effort in, and
Totally.
all the coaches.
The man behind the Rumbles.
Yeah, the coaches at the club, but particularly for the Rumble, Joe Howard, thanks. Yeah. Right, and thank you to Marky.
Yeah, big thanks to Marky.
Yeah, stood there. I hope your arms aren't aching too much.
They're absolutely killing me.
Well, we can waffle.
Should have brought
I hope
another
you can,
stand.
I hope you can cut some of that. Yeah. All right, that's it.
Right,
Cheers.
hands up, keep
Cheers,
listening.
gents.
Yeah.
Bye.